That's horrific. It's free speech, but you shouldn't be employed anywhere if you're going to say that. And employers, you have an obligation to get rid of people. You need to look at people who are saying horrible things, and they shouldn't be working with you. Businesses cannot discriminate. If you want to go in and print posters with Charlie's pictures on them for a vigil, you have to let them do that. We can prosecute you for that. I have Harmeet Dillon right now in our civil rights unit looking at that immediately, that Office Depot had done that. We're looking at that.
Fox didn't just melt down, it left a puddle the size of Florida. Last night, state regime media sprinted from free speech absolutists to print Charlie Kirk posters or we prosecute your Epson. I'm not kidding. They hauled out Pam Bondi like a late night infomercial for authoritarianism, and she threatened print shops on live TV. That's not journalism, that's a shakedown with B-roll. Quick pit stop before we dive in. If you're here for facts with flamethrower energy, tap subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the next one. And yes, I read your comments, so as you listen, tell me below. Do you think this is panic or policy from the MAGA media machine? Let's set the stage. The right's narrative collapsed the moment the shooter's profile didn't match their favorite boogeyman. Cue the scramble. Overnight, Fox pivoted to 3 plays: threaten dissenters, launder blame onto marginalized groups, and spin government incompetence as transparency. It's the same old routine, just louder and sloppier. Pam Bondi's print shop purge is the perfect exhibit. On Fox, the former Florida AG announced, with the confidence of someone who hasn't read a First Amendment since dial-up, that if a store declines to print Charlie Kirk memorial posters, we can prosecute you. She bragged that their civil rights unit is looking at that immediately. Civil rights to force private businesses to produce political propaganda? That's rich coming from the crowd that cheered when businesses refused wedding services to LGBTQ couples. Remember 303 Creative, Masterpiece Cake Shop? When it's a gay couple's big day, compelled speech is tyranny. When it's a MAGA vigil, suddenly you're a public utility with a printer. Pick a lane your hypocrisy is showing.
And by the way, these MAGA Republicans may want to recall the precedent that they created with our right-wing Supreme Court, where now the Supreme Court said that if you are a private business, if you have, any kind of good faith basis, whether it's in religion or otherwise, you can not take like wedding photographs of gay people. You don't have to make wedding cakes for gay people. But let me get this straight. The MAGA Republicans are like, you can discriminate against gay people if you cite religion, but now you have to print out photographs to celebrate Charlie Kirk if you're asked to do that, and you can't turn that down if you're a private business owner. Okay. Then you have state regime media host Brian Kilmeade say, I wrongly said homeless people should get lethal injections. I apologize for that callous remark. So that's it. You just go on air and say that homeless people should die by lethal injections, by involuntary lethal injections. And then you get to, I'm sorry, I called for their deaths. But let's move on and talk about how if you own a printer, if you're a printing company, you must print Charlie Kirk celebrations. Here, play this clip of Kill Me.
And it actually happened when we were together on Wednesday, Lawrence. In the morning, we were discussing the murder of Irina Zaruska in Charlotte, North Carolina, and how to stop these kinds of attacks by homeless, mentally ill assailants, including institutionalizing or jailing such people so they cannot attack again. Now, during that discussion, I wrongly said they should get lethal injections. I apologize for that extremely callous remark. I'm obviously aware that not all mentally ill homeless people act as the perpetrator did in North Carolina, and that so many homeless people deserve our empathy and compassion. Lawrence, back to you.
And let's talk about power. What Bondi pitched isn't equal treatment. It's the state deputizing corporations to amplify one faction's message under threat of prosecution. That's not free markets. It's soft autocracy with a stapler. Enter Brian Kilmeade, who casually suggested homeless people should be euthanized, then apologized with the energy of a teenager caught throwing a house party. Oops, my bad. I'm sorry, you don't whoopsie a call for lethal injections. Imagine saying the quiet part that loud and expecting a commercial break to launder it clean. This is the Cruelty Project unmasked. Punish the powerless, coddle the powerful, and call it tough love. And then, Jesse Waters, Fox's Minister of Consequences. His on-air promise, if you criticize Charlie Kirk, there will be costs, social costs, financial costs. We will shame, excommunicate, banish. Translation, they don't want free speech, they want free obedience. These are the same people who sobbed about cancel culture because a comedian made fun of billionaires. Now they're crowdsourcing blacklists. Free speech for me, blackball for thee. That's not a hypothetical. MAGA influencers are already scraping LinkedIn, doxing random employees, and demanding firings for posts that often just quote Charlie Kirk's own words back to him. Companies terrified of the mob are purging staff to appease a talk show host. If you've ever wondered how a democracy slides into a permission society, this is the foot in the door. Politicize employment, weaponize shame, outsource punishments. Now to the federal clown car. Kash Patel, the podcaster LARPing as FBI director, tried to victory lap the manhunt he publicly botched. Remember, he wrongly announced a suspect was in custody from a table at Rouse, then had to retract it. Last night, he insisted 33 hours is blazing speed, bragged that he smoked the guy out by releasing footage, and compared himself to Boston Marathon investigators. Buddy, the suspect, turned himself in after his dad recognized him and called a pastor. You didn't smoke anyone out. The family put the fire out while you were tweeting from a red sauce chandelier. Patel's shtick is transparency, but it's really performative chaos. He now claims there was a written note, a manifesto light, that someone destroyed, but don't worry, the FBI can forensically prove what it said. Fantastic. We're in the Scooby-Doo phase of the investigation, where the plot twist lives in a document no one can see. That's convenient when your side is desperate to bend motive toward your favorite scapegoats. Spoiler, if the eventual reconstruction reads like a Twitter thread about trans ideology, it'll be the first manifesto with a Fox Chiron.
It's so utterly ridiculous right there. Then they have their chief propagandist, Jesse Waters, say the following: you don't deserve to be able to say critical things about Charlie Kirk and have no penalty. We will inflict costs on you, social costs, financial costs. We will shame and excommunicate and banish you. Remember when these people pretended to care about free speech? Here, play this clip.
You don't deserve to be able to say that and then have no penalty. There will be costs. There'll be social costs, financial costs. We will shame, excommunicate them, banish them. And that is a promise. And until then, game on.
And by the way, all these MAGA leaders and MAGA influencers, they're going around and they're like looking at people's LinkedIn, like they looked at like Apple LinkedIn or whatever the company is. And then they'll see like if there's any employee who's directly quoting Charlie Kirk or saying critical things, then they'll dox them. They'll put their photo and their name, demand that people call the companies and ask that you be fired if you say critical things about Charlie Kirk, often just citing what Charlie Kirk said about black people or about Biden or about women, about consent, about LGBTQ, about trans people. And like, how dare you say this? You need to be fired. And the companies are like firing and purging people, many who are just quoting what Charlie Kirk is saying. Wait, then you have Kash Patel, the loser FBI director, saying, look, we handled this great, the investigation into Charlie Kirk's killer, even though we got it wrong twice publicly and I had to issue retractions, even though I was at Rayo's enjoying a 5-star Italian meal and was saying who the wrong shooter was. Patel's like, the Boston Marathon killers and the Luigi Mangione case, that took more days than this took, so we deserve an award. Here, play this clip.
When you're talking about things like going out to a crime scene, that's how you investigate that matter properly. And when you're talking about why did it take 33 hours, well, I made the operational decision to immediately release enhanced videos and photographs of the suspect because the operational call that I made for the FBI said, we are about to smoke this guy out and his family and friends and his internal network is going to assist it. And this is the operation I want to highlight in terms of transparency. The FBI is traditionally an organization that has not been transparent. My mission to the American public, as I said in my confirmation here, I am going to work with you to make this organization as transparent as possible, including during investigations, so that we restore trust in the FBI and the integrity of the FBI that was jettisoned away by the fools that weaponized it. And when I said that, I meant it, and you saw it in action, and no one should be criticizing anyone but me if they got a problem with it. The men and women of the FBI handled this brilliantly. And as you said, Boston and the Luigi Mangione case happened in downtown metropolises with thousands of people around, and it still took them 5 days. So if you got a criticism, make a fair criticism and bring it to my feet. And I promise you the men and women of the FBI will respond like we did in this manhunt.
Then you have this arrogant, horrible Greg Gutfeld says, we don't need more information about the killer of Charlie Kirk. What's interesting here is, why does this only happen on the left and not the right? Which is total BS. 75-80% of these shootings and acts of violence come from right-wing extremism, not from the vast majority is from right-wing extremism. And this guy, this 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, came from a white Utah Trump gun-toting family. And now they blame it. He took one semester online during COVID. It was an online class from Utah State University. That radicalized him, or what? He went to a electrical technical school. That radicalized him to become a left. Here, watch this. Let's play it.
It wasn't school indoctrination. Kerry Lake went off on that. He was in an online apprenticeship program at Dixie Technical College, which I don't think was changed.
I would just note
I
the
understand,
family
but
said
they didn't say
changed.
when he changed.
Yeah.
I'm just saying we need more information before you
Charlie
smear.
Kirk at a dinner.
Before you
We don't need more information.
Really?
Yes, we
Okay.
don't need it. What is interesting here is, why is only this happening on the left and not the right? That's all we need to know.
What about
There's
Vance
absolutely
Pilcher?
no cognitive...
What about Melissa Hortman that we just
okay,
talked
you want to talk
about?
about Melissa Hortman? Did you know her name before it happened? None of us did. None of us were spending every single day talking about Mrs. Hortman. I never heard of her until after she died.
She doesn't matter?
Don't play that bullshit with me. You know what I'm saying is, there was no demonization, amplification about that woman before she died. It was a specific crime against her by somebody who knew her. The same. Now you could bring up Josh Shapiro, but then you will not bring up, for example, that was a pro-Palestine person. So don't use what about this? The fact of the matter is, the both sides argument not only doesn't fly, we don't care. We don't care about your both sides argument. That shit is dead.
Meanwhile, Greg Gutfeld, Fox's smirk in a suit, said we don't need more information about the killer because the only interesting question is why this happens on the left and not the right. Sir, for a decade plus, security analysts have warned that the majority of extremist-linked killings in the US stem from right-wing ideologies. You don't have to like it, but you don't get to replace it with vibes. The "we don't need more info" posture is the point. Ignorance is a feature when facts don't fit. And because the propaganda pipeline never wastes a crisis, Fox shoved in a climate segment to launder another Trump-era narrative, a DOE report downplaying climate risk, only to get bodied by 85-plus scientists in a 500-page rebuttal. That interlude tells you everything. This ecosystem doesn't correct bad information. It stacks it. When one lie runs out of gas, they refuel with the next. Lara Trump wandered in to lecture Democrats about accountability for where we've led this country. Cute. In this timeline, Republicans hold the White House, the Senate, the House, and a capture-happy Supreme Court. That's the dog blaming the hydrant. But it tracks. If every lever of power is yours, you either deliver or deflect. Deflection is easier, especially when accountability for them means firing baristas who retweeted a Kirk quote. Representative Michael Rowley brought his inside voice outside, scolding, "You tried to kill our president twice," and declaring, "You actually killed Charlie. If your goal is to lower the temperature, maybe don't accuse half the country of attempted murder in your first sentence." That's not de-escalation, that's gasoline. And because we have to complete the bingo card, Kristi Noem floated a posthumous permission slip. Charlie's last texts to me were to go after Democratic mayors and governors. Ah yes, governing by seance. Nothing says honor his memory like using a murder to bless domestic troop deployments into blue cities. They keep saying the quiet part out loud and then stapling a flag to it. Let's zoom out. What you watched is not a collection of random hot takes. It's a strategy with 3 gears. Gear 1, invert free speech, redefine censorship as "someone criticized me," and redefine expression as "you are legally required to print my posters." Force private businesses to platform a message under threat of state action while carving religious exemptions for your own base. It's not just hypocrisy. It's a blueprint to coerce cultural compliance. Gear 2, manufacture enemies. When a suspect doesn't match the cartoon villain, invent a trans roommate subplot. Sources whisper to Fox Digital, Murdoch's tabloids launder it, influencers torch it into trans violence, even as those same sources admit the supposed roommate is cooperating with the FBI and had no knowledge of a plot. Helpful witness becomes headline villain because the shooter looks uncomfortably familiar. The point isn't evidence, it's audience conditioning. Gear 3. Fail upward. Announce wrong suspects. Apologize for homicidal commentary like you spilled a latte. Claim credit for investigative work families actually did. Promise consequences for speech you don't like, and call it law and order. If called out, demand civility. For yourself. Here's the core truth they're scrambling to bury. This wasn't a narrative win for them.
Then you have, again, this is what Fox is pushing. They're pushing hate and divisiveness over and over again, right? Like on this network, as we're saying, we need to have empathy. Let's come together. On Fox, they have Lara Trump, because it's state regime media, so you got to hire the Trumps. And then Lara Trump, who has her own show on Fox, she goes, if I were the head of the Democratic Party, I would come out now and say, we don't have any accountability for where we have led this country. Okay, Republicans control the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, the executive branch right now. This is so deeply unserious, Lara Trump. Here, play this clip.
And now you see a lot of these people trying to backtrack, Harris, and they're trying to kind of back away from this. But the hate is still out there that they fomented. So I think it's incumbent upon the people who are in charge of the Democrat Party. If I were the head of the party, I would come out right now and say, we have to stop this. We have to take a little bit of accountability for where we have led this country. You see it mostly coming out of the left, Harris. And now Charlie Kirk is no longer with us.
Then Kash Patel's like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have said that we knew who the killer was, but we did a great job overall. Play this clip.
24 hours after, when we were still looking for the guy, I know you posted that we got him. And that ended up not being true. You took some incoming because of that. What led to you posting that? Why did you feel so certain about it? And what do you have to say about the criticism?
No, I appreciate this opportunity. Look, as I stated, I was being transparent with working with the public on our findings as I had them. I stated in that message that we had a subject and that we were going to interview him, and we did, and he was released. The job of the FBI is not just to manhunt the actual suspect who did the killing or suspects, but it's also to eliminate targets and eliminate subjects who are not involved in the process. And that's what we were doing. Could I have worded it a little better in the heat of the moment? Sure. But do I regret putting it out? Absolutely not. I was telling the world what the FBI was doing as we were doing, and I'm continuing to do that. And I challenge anyone out there to find a director that has been more transparent and more willing to work the media on high profile cases, or any case the FBI is handling, than we have been.
And then Kash Patel says that Charlie Kirk's assassin, Tyler Robinson, left behind a manifesto that was destroyed, but the FBI can forensically prove its existence. The FBI is going to redo the manifesto. Let me guess. It's going to say that he was trans, or that he had a trans lover, or that the bullets were trans, or you're going to blame it on the trans community again, because you start with the false premise that it's trans motivated and trans ideology, when in fact, the profile of the shooter, internet addicted, lost 22-year-old white men, tends to be the profile. Here, play this clip.
Did he write a written note before the assassination attempt? That's what the governor said yesterday. And what did that say, if you could share?
So what I'm able to say, I'm sorry. So what I'm able to say is, I addressed it partially earlier, is that the written note, we believe, what did exist, and we have evidence to show what was in that note, which is, and I'm going to summarize, basically saying, the suspect wrote a note saying, I have the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it. That note was written before the shooting. Evidence of its existence, we now have learned, existed before the shooting, was in the location, in the suspect and partner's home. But we have since learned that the note, even though it has been destroyed, we have found forensic evidence of the note, and we have confirmed what that note says because of our aggressive interview posture at the FBI.
The suspect is a 22-year-old white guy from a conservative religious community. That doesn't indict a whole faith or state. It indicts the comforting lie that political violence only wears someone else's face. And if you're in a movement allergic to introspection, you can't afford that mirror. Hence the stampede toward trans scapegoats, college boogeymen, and printer prosecutions. And because someone will say it, yes, condemn the violence every time. People are not pawns, grief is not a PR strategy, but condemnation isn't a gag order. Criticizing Charlie Kirk's record, the bigotry, the platforming of cruelty, the gleeful disdain for empathy, is not the same as celebrating his death. Adults can hold two thoughts simultaneously, never glorify violence, and we reject the ideas he sold. Let's also name how this escalates. When a government signals it will investigate citizens for speech, when TV hosts promise social and financial punishments for dissent, when corporate HR shops start screening political views to appease a nightly monologue, people go quiet. That's the goal. Silence isn't peace, it's compliance. Democracies don't die in darkness. They dim under fluorescent lights, one chilling memo at a time. So what do we do with a media machine that demands obedience and a government wing that rewards it? We refuse the script. We insist on evidence over innuendo. We pressure platforms and employers to distinguish between harassment and criticism, between threats and quotation. We support workers targeted for political speech that falls well within the law. And we call this project what it is, a test drive for power, how far they can push, who caves, and which institutions hold. And yes, we keep receipts. If you're going to pulverize print shops for not producing propaganda, don't expect us to forget your Supreme Court sermons about compelled speech. If you're going to call for killing the unhoused on Wednesday and repentance on Thursday, don't be shocked when we bring up Friday. If you're going to wave a destroyed manifesto like a talisman, don't whine when we ask to see the actual runes. Let me land this with a simple rule, because apparently we need one. If your free speech requires prosecutors, you don't believe in free speech. If your law and order cannot survive facts, you don't believe in law. And if your unity requires everyone else's silence, you don't believe in a country, you believe in a cult. All right, your turn. Should private businesses be forced by the state to print political material they disagree with? Yes or no, and why? Drop your take below. What's your read on the destroyed note claim? Credible lead or narrative spackle? If you work in HR management, how are you navigating internal pressure campaigns around employees' political speech? What's a fair standard? If this breakdown hit, smash like so more people see it and share it with that one uncle who thinks free speech means Fox gets a badge. And if you want this energy in your feed every day, receipts, analysis, and jokes sharp enough to cut through the spin, subscribe. We're not just watching the news, we're marking who's hoping you won't.
And remember, if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button.